quickly, let's talk a little anime. From 1988.
Wow, you're excited.
I will talk about Akira anytime.
Well,
Please do.
This is the beginning of anime in the U.S., right?
Yes.
I mean, 88 is kind of the first time that Japanese animation came to the U.S. in a big way.
I also got little Totoro. I got a tattoo of Totoro.
Look
right
at
here.
you.
Do you really?
Little guy. But yeah, that was I don't know, Akira. People. That was the first anime I ever saw. I saw that on a crappy super bootleg tape that somebody had been passing around. Blew my mind. Didn't really understand what was happening.
Nope.
If you want to understand what's happening, read the comic, which is like 2,000 pages, and they sort of try to compress that into a 2-hour movie.
Well, the second half of the movie isn't actually at all compared to the manga. Like they just did their own thing at that point.
No, they hadn't finished the manga when the movie came out. This movie is like, it is literally more colorful than most cartoons. They had to use extra colored paint. They had to mix an additional 50 colors because so much of the movie is set at night that to kind of get that sense of contrast and detail, you really had to make extra colors. It was one of the first anime films where the voices were recorded ahead of time. And the way we brought it to the States was with one of the most comically bad dubs. I have it on Blu-ray, all remastered, and I still watch it with the dub sometimes because it's hilarious. It's like having really good sushi with Velveeta on it. Yeah.
It's regarded as one of like the most like science fiction animated best films of all time.
Easily. I mean, the thing that I think is crazy to look at, I mean, you look at it, it's up there with like some of the best Disney movies, but it is one of the most bleak and uncompromising like subjects you could tackle.
Gross, like that scene where he like just becomes this like mass. It's just disgusting.
It turns into a cyst. It's horrible.
Yeah.
There's pus everywhere, lots of screaming. I mean, like they shoot off a guy's jaw. Like it's brutal. It's a brutal movie.
Well, it was the cartoon my mom wouldn't let me see, right? That was the thing. Is like I wanted to watch that movie so badly. I remember going into like a Borders Books and Music and like sitting in the VHS aisle and like looking at it and just thinking it's the coolest thing ever.
Manga video.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly.
I love that movie so much. I've seen that possibly more than anything else. I put it on just in the background because every frame of that is gorgeous. If you've never seen it, get it on Blu-ray and just pause it periodically and look at how much is going on.
Well, and the soundtrack too. The music is amazing as well.
The soundtrack is by a Japanese collective called Gaino Yamashiro Gumi, which is about 100 musicians who are kind of other things by day. Like it's sort of like a just a collective, really.
Like Fight Club.
Yeah, it's like Fight Club. They're like, well, I'm a doctor by day, but I'm working on the Akira soundtrack too. But basically, they get together and they do this weird fusion of traditional Japanese folk music, like a lot of chanting and taiko drums and stuff, but with modern sensibilities. They did some kind of cutting edge stuff with synthesizers and MIDI. Katsuhiro Otomo heard their stuff. They had an album called Echophony Rin. Heard it and was like, this sounds like weird, crazy future music. I'm making a movie about biker punks in Neo Tokyo. Make this soundtrack, and it is nuts. It is such a cool like piece of music.
And it's kind of got that weird like religious dissonance to it too. And the chants and the weird like drum beats and it's off-putting, but very, very cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the thing I like about Akira a lot is that it's not remotely, like, it's gross, it's brutal, it's uncomfortable, it's bleak. Like, there's nothing happy and marketable about it. And it is on par with things that are totally, like, sugar-coated nicely. And it also makes no sense. It's completely all over the place. It does make sense if you've seen it enough times, but it doesn't explain itself very well.
It takes a while to unpack.
Yeah.
It won't be getting its own themed area of Disneyland anytime soon.
If it did,
should.
No.
Oh my God.
That would be disgusting. No.
I want to ride those bikes.
And then conversely, the exact opposite anime is My Neighbor Totoro, which is that was Miyazaki's second or third movie.
I think it was his third.
Yeah.
Which is funny too because Grave of the Fireflies and My Neighbor Totoro both came out as a double feature. And Grave of the Fireflies is the most depressing anime film besides Akira that I've seen.
I totally didn't know that.
Where it's like World War II, two children lost their parents. They both eventually, spoiler alert, they both die. And so you have that with like My Neighbor Totoro, where it's these two sisters who find a forest sprite and everything's whimsical and fantastical and it's childhood imagination. Both are fantastic films, but one is deeply dark and one's super cute, and they're both marketed to kids.
Weird.
Clearly, Grave of the Fireflies bombed at the box office, and My Neighbor Totoro, because it's more merchandise friendly, it did better, and it stood the test of time more in like Studio Ghibli rapport. But both films are wonderful and both very beautiful too.
I love the thing about Miyazaki's movies is that he consciously doesn't have a villain. Like he'll have like an element that's negative in some sense, but both Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service, like he manages to have drama without resorting to having someone
A main villain.
being bad.
Yeah.
Like the scariest part of Totoro is like one of them gets lost, you know, and it's like this sense of just that is horrifying when you're a little kid. You're lost, you can't find your mom, and there's a goat there, and it's upsetting. But then you go and you make friends with a cat bus, and then the cat bus helps you. Like that, I don't know. I love it. I've said this a bunch of times. If I had to get stuck in a room watching one movie for the rest of my life, I would pick Totoro hands down because it's in every way that Akira is pulsating and exploding and bleeding out of the face. Totoro is this soft, cuddly, wonderfully pleasant and beautiful, serene thing. So,
but at the same time, it also does deal with, I mean, childhood, like the realities of childhood, right?
Yeah.
And it, like taking it as a double feature with Grave of the Fireflies, I feel like it's got to be fascinating because, I mean, Grave of the Fireflies also doesn't have a villain. It has World War II, which is, you know, its own villain, obviously. But even with that, it's very much a human story and a story about childhood and a story about children surviving, much in the same way that Totoro kind of is, right? It's about two sisters and their relationship and growing up together. And I mean, that's what's, I think the thing that really sets the Ghibli stuff to me apart from like the Disney stuff is how much it deals with like the reality of childhood as opposed to just the fantasy of it. And yeah, I mean, I still go back to those movies all the time as a result.
Well, let's wrap up.